At 14:23 hours on February 3rd, 2525, Tiara Station over the human colony of Harvest made long-range radar contact with an unknown alien vessel. Contact with the planet was lost soon after. On April 20th, the Colonial Military Authority sent the CMA Argo to investigate the colony, only to lose contact with the ship. Finally, on October 20th, Battle Group 4 consisting of the CMA Arabia, Vostok, and Heracles arrived in the system only to find Harvest empty and burned. Shortly after, an alien vessel was discovered. The Heracles attempted contact following protocol. The alien ship responded with a message in UNSC base English.
Humans, your destruction is the will of the gods, and we are their instrument.
An engagement followed, lasting only 14 seconds. The Arabia and Vostok were quickly destroyed, and though severely damaged, the Heracles managed to return to the colony of Reach, where it reported its findings. Soon after, the United Nations Space Command, or UNSC, humanity's primary military body, was put on high alert, and the Human Covenant War had begun. The primary conflict of the Halo saga, the Human Covenant War, also simply referred to as the Covenant War by humanity, or even the Great War, was a war of extermination following first contact between humanity and the Covenant. Begun in 2525, the war would wage for almost 28 years, with humans constantly being on the back foot as the Covenant's advanced technology gave them a massive advantage, especially in space. But why this war of extermination, and how was humanity able to hold out for so long? Today we explore both of these questions as we dive into the history of the Human Covenant War. The Covenant was a hierarchy-based alien religious hegemony founded in 852 BCE by the Sanshayum and Sanghili, known as prophets and elites to humanity, following a great war known as the War of Beginnings. The war was born from an ideological difference between the two species, the Sanshayum wanting to study the technology of a long-dead race known as the Forerunners, while the Sanghili believed that doing anything other than worshipping the relics would be an egregious sin. Though the Sanghili were superior warriors, the Sanshayum had a massive Forerunner keyship known as the Dreadnought that leveled the playing field. After almost a century of war, the two species were at a near stalemate. During this time, the Sanghili had violated their beliefs, having started using the Forerunner relics on their homeworld and colonies to develop more advanced weaponry. Still, nothing they had could stand up to the Dreadnought, and they eventually surrendered. The Sanshayum, weary of the long war and few in number, recognized the capabilities of the Sanghili, and the Sanghili learned of the Sanshayum's religious beliefs that promised a great transcendence. The two species came together to form a covenant. Formalized under a document known as the Writ of Union, the Sanshayum, or prophets, would seek out and study Forerunner relics, their ultimate goal to find the fabled halos that could propel believers on the great journey to godhood. The Sanghili, meanwhile, would protect the prophets using the technology the prophets developed. The culmination of this union was the construction of High Charity, a Covenant holy city. At its center would sit the now deactivated Dreadnought, which would power the space station. Over the millennia, dozens of species would be encountered by the Covenant. Some would be integrated as client species, providing direct labor resources and military support, while others would be relegated to the fringe, largely kept on their homeworlds while providing various strategic and infrastructure-related advantages. First contact with humanity occurred in 2524 on accident, taking place between an automated freighter and a Kig-Yar or Jackal scout ship. It was following this incident that the High Prophets at the time ordered a small group of Ungoi, aka Grunts, and elites to study the human languages in secret. It wasn't long after that the world of Harvest was discovered with the Covenant's artifact detection technology, known as Luminaries, painting the planet as a treasure trove of Forerunner relics. 3 prophets discovered this and planned to use it to propel themselves to the position of High Prophets. However, when feeding the Luminary data into the core of the Dreadnought, the ship's long-dormant AI, Mendicant Bias, awoke and revealed a terrifying truth. The relics detected were humans, and humans were the chosen inheritors of the Forerunner legacy. The AI was quickly shut down, but the 3 prophets were left horrified at what they'd learned. Everything they believed was a lie. To cover up the truth, they blackmailed their way into power, becoming the High Prophets of Truth, Mercy, and Regret, and declaring holy war against humanity. Set upon by the technologically superior Covenant, humanity would be forced to get creative with their strategies against the alien aggressors. Following the first attack on Harvest, the UNSC brought former hero of the insurrection and disgraced Admiral Preston J. Cole out of retirement, gave him a massive fleet, and sent him to retake Harvest. Against all odds, he succeeded, though at great cost, with a third of his fleet destroyed, taking down one Covenant super-destroyer. The battle at Harvest would continue for another 5 years as the UNSC and Covenant traded control of the planet. Meanwhile, the Covenant would find other human worlds and burn their surfaces with high-powered plasma beams, a practice that came to be known as glassing. Recognizing that humanity's main advantage was how spread out they were, Admiral Cole wrote up a protocol. This protocol would require ships to make random slip-space jumps while fleeing from Covenant forces, so as to avoid leading the Covenant to a yet undiscovered human world, to purge navigational data upon encountering Covenant forces, and in the event of imminent capture, to self-destruct among other stipulations. Though it was practically law for Cole's fleet, it wouldn't be formalized by the UNSC until 2535, almost 10 years in, when a majority of humanity's outer colonies had already been glassed. Nevertheless, the protocol bought precious time for humanity. In addition to brilliant commanders and strategies, humanity had an edge in the form of Spartans, super soldiers originally created to quell human insurrection. Trained from the age of 6, augmented and outfitted with Mjolnir-powered assault armor, the Spartans, despite their intended use, proved incredibly effective against the Covenant. During their first engagement with the Covenant, the Spartan IIs managed to board a Covenant ship and destroy it. The UNSC would continue to run missions involving boarding Covenant vessels for months to follow, culminating in the destruction of a Covenant supercarrier being built over an alien world full of artifacts created by the Forerunners. So effective were the Spartan IIs that the UNSC's Office of Naval Intelligence, or ONI, the UNSC's primary intelligence and covert ops organization, commissioned the Spartan III program in 2531. Using children orphaned by the Covenant War and taking advantage of their anger, the Spartan IIIs would be trained in greater numbers over a shorter period of time, augmented and given cheaper armor. Ultimately, they would be sent against Covenant targets deemed too risky for conventional UNSC forces, even Spartan IIs. In 2537, the majority of the first class of Spartan IIIs, Alpha Company, were deployed against a Covenant manufacturing plant in Operation Prometheus. The plant was destroyed, dealing a devastating blow against the Covenant war machine, but every Spartan deployed was killed during the mission. A similar mission was undertaken in 2545 by the majority of Spartan III Beta Company with Operation Torpedo, a mission to destroy a Covenant plasma refinery on Pegasi Delta. Almost all Spartan IIIs were killed, save for 2. These 2 would go on to train the third company of Spartan IIIs, Gamma Company. Other Spartan IIIs would be pulled from their companies for special training and missions based on their ability. These included specialized 2-person teams called Headhunters and Mjolnir-clad operational units like Noble Team. Due to their nature and origins, the Spartan II and III programs were often kept secret, the IIIs especially given the intent to trade lives for time. The Spartan IIs, however, proved to have a notable effect on morale, notably due to how often Spartans would win ground engagements with Covenant forces. In light of this, ONI enacted 2 protocols. The first was making the existence of the Spartan II program public in 2547, to a degree. Though rumors had been circulating among service people since the earliest years of the war, making the Spartan IIs public was done to boost morale for both soldiers and civilians after over 20 years of war. The second was Directive 930, which stated that Spartans could only be listed as missing in action or wounded in action, but never killed in action. This created the illusion that Spartans couldn't be killed, an illusion bolstered by the Spartans' Mjolnir armor, which hid their individual identities and made them seem more machine than human. This effect was not lost on the Covenant either, which had come to label Spartans as demons. Some within the Covenant even believed that Spartans killed in battle were resurrected and redeployed. By 2552, the Covenant had been encroaching on the innermost worlds in human space, and the war looked to be near an end. In a last-ditch effort, the UNSC gathered as many surviving Spartan IIs as it could at Reach for Operation Red Flag, a mission to capture a Covenant hierarch in hopes of using the hostage to force a peace. Before the plan could be properly enacted, however, the Covenant arrived and Reach fell. More than just a devastating loss, Reach was practically on Earth's doorstep, and it was only 2 months later that the Covenant would arrive at humanity's homeworld. The initial invasion force was rather small, 50 ships compared to the over 300 that destroyed Reach, but more would show up in the weeks to follow. It seemed like humanity's time was at an end. It was through incredible strokes of luck in the discoveries of Installations 04 and 05, two of the long sought-after Halo rings that laid at the heart of the Covenant religion, that humanity's chances at survival took a turn. Installation 04 was destroyed by one of the last Spartan 2s, John 117, aka the Master Chief, an act for which the elite commander present at the battle, Val Vadimi, was blamed. Stripped of his rank and branded a heretic, he had no choice but to take up the mantle of Arbiter, becoming a holy warrior that would be sent against the Covenant's enemies with the hopes of dying in battle to regain his place on the Great Journey. During his time as Arbiter, Thel discovered the true purpose of the Halo rings and that the Prophets had lied. And perhaps worse, the Prophets had also tried to expel the elites from the Covenant, resulting in a brief but devastating civil war known as the Great Schism. Because of this, humanity and the elites found themselves allied against what remained of the Covenant. It was this alliance that allowed humanity to win the war. The final battle took place on and over a massive Forerunner installation known as the Ark, the Forge of the Halo Rings. A portal to the Ark had been discovered on Earth, and when the Covenant fled to it, humans and elites followed. There they worked to hunt down and kill the last of the Covenant leaders, the High Prophet of Truth. But this was not their only obstacle. A parasitic lifeform known as the Flood had been found on the Halo rings previously. The Flood would infect hosts to create various forms to further spread their infection. Eventually, with enough biomass, a central hive intelligence would be created, known as a Gravemind. While the Flood outbreak on Installation 04 had been quelled when the ring was destroyed, the outbreak on Installation 05 had been much more developed and managed to infect the Covenant Holy City of High Charity. With this, it was able to follow the Covenant, humanity, and the elites to the Ark. In order to stop the Flood once and for all, the Master Chief and Arbiter worked together, finding a new Halo ring being built on the Ark to replace Installation 04, and activating it to destroy the Flood. Though they managed to escape the ring's deadly radiation, only the Arbiter would make it back to Earth, the Master Chief being lost in space. The Human Covenant War formally ended in March of 2553 when the UNSC Sangheili ceasefire of 2552 was ratified. A ceremony was held on Earth to remember those fallen during the war, which was attended by the Arbiter. Though some could never forgive what the Covenant, the elites, had done, they could both start rebuilding, working towards a brighter future. Though old Covenant leadership was largely dead, hostilities towards humans, and now elites, would continue for years to come. An empire like the Covenant doesn't simply go away because its leaders are dead. Warlords across space would continue the Covenant in various forms, or form their own factions, each with unique and often conflicting goals. Among the elites, civil war would engulf the species for years to come. And that's the Human Covenant War, a war of genocide begun to cover up a secret that could have shattered the Covenant and, ironically, ended up doing just that. Once the central conflict of the Halo games, even with the war's end, its impact continues to be felt. And on that note, I would love to see more stories set during the Human Covenant War make their way into the games. The war lasted almost 28 years and is ripe for exploration. From traditional stop the Forerunner mega weapon to more direct stop the Covenant invasion stories, and even more. Anyway, let me know what you thought of the video and whether you'd like to see more games set during the Covenant War. That's all for today, thanks for watching. As always, this has been Halo Canon. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider subscribing, and if you really love me, hit that notification bell and leave a thumbs up. These both really help out the channel. I wouldn't be where I am now without your views and support, so once again, thank you. Keep on being awesome, Canonites.